Monkey refuses to leave a rock under heavy rain. When they get closer, they cry at what they see. The storm broke out in the late afternoon over the dense forests of Yellowstone National Park, bringing with it thunderclaps that shook the sky, and grand gusts that swept through the wilderness without mercy. Rain poured down in thick curtains, transforming the earth into mud and causing the streams to overflow with force. In the midst of this natural chaos, something unusual caught the attention of a group of local residents who were accustomed to observing the behavior of wild animals. In a clearing near the stream, on a slippery and partially submerged rock, a monkey remained motionless, huddled under the incessant rain. While all other animals ran for shelter, it seemed to completely ignore the danger and cold, clutching something against its chest with a firmness that intrigued the few who saw it. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give it a like. Let us know which city you're watching us from. Stay with us. Mike Thompson, a local wildlife observer, was the first to notice the strange behavior. Along with his neighbors, Emma Roberts and David Clark, they had spent years studying the patterns of the local wildlife. The three of them stood at the edge of the clearing, protected by the partial cover of towering pine trees, watching the scene unfold with growing concern. At first, they thought the animal was just frightened or disoriented, but the way it maintained that position, showing no intention of moving, indicated there was something more. The monkey's gaze, fixed on an invisible point, conveyed an expression difficult to describe, as if it were trapped in a state of alertness and grief at the same time. Thunder boomed in the sky, but it didn't move. The survival instinct that would normally drive any animal to seek refuge seemed to have been replaced by a greater force. Their curiosity turned to concern, and the small group decided to approach, stepping carefully in the soaked mud. The path to the stream was treacherous, and the rain made it difficult to see, but something drove them forward. The closer they got, the more they realized that the monkey was holding something small and fragile against its chest. Its behavior wasn't mere discomfort with the storm. There was an intense, almost desperate protection happening there. "I can't believe what I'm seeing," Emma whispered, her voice barely audible over the storm. The rain plastered her gray hair to her face, but she kept moving forward, drawn by a force she couldn't explain. David, a retired veterinarian, squinted through the curtain of rain, trying to make sense of what they were witnessing. The scene became clear when Mike managed to see better through the rain curtain. What the monkey was holding wasn't a branch, nor was it any ordinary object. It was an infant, too small, too fragile, and by all indications, too still. The group stopped, immediately, absorbing the weight of what they saw. The monkey wasn't just defying the storm, it was trying somehow to protect that small being, refusing to accept what seemed inevitable. For a moment, no one knew what to do. Any sudden approach could startle it and make it react unpredictably. However, keeping their distance meant leaving it there alone in its pain. When Mike took a step forward, the monkey emitted a sound different from any they had ever heard. It wasn't a warning cry or aggression, but a deep lament, laden with emotion. It pressed the small body even more tightly against its chest, as if trying with the force of its own warmth to bring back something that had already departed. Time seemed to freeze around that scene. None of those present dared to move. The rain continued to fall violently, but now it seemed a minor detail compared to what was happening there. That's when something unexpected happened. Another monkey emerged from the woods and approached. Slowly, it didn't try to touch the first one, nor force it to move. It just sat beside it, as if understanding the need to be present in that moment of grief. The presence of the second monkey made the humans hesitate. The rain continued its relentless assault on the clearing, but the scene before them had taken on an almost sacred quality. Mike exchanged glances with Emma and David, their years of wildlife observation experience suddenly feeling inadequate in the face of what they were witnessing. Perhaps they shouldn't interfere. Perhaps this was a moment that belonged only to these creatures. But time was running out, and if the infant still had any chance, it needed help. The doubt remained until the monkey, after long minutes of resistance, did something unexpected. It raised its gaze to the humans, its eyes shining with a mixture of sadness and acceptance. Then, hesitantly, it moved its arms and, with an almost human care, placed the infant on the rock beside it. "Dear Lord," Emma breathed, her hand covering her mouth. The tension seized everyone. Nobody knew exactly how to interpret that gesture. The monkey didn't flee, didn't attack, just remained there, watching attentively. David, drawing on his years of veterinary experience, slowly knelt down and, with trembling hands, touched the small body. What happened next left everyone breathless. A weak breath, almost imperceptible, broke the silence. Against all odds, the infant was still alive. Chaos transformed into urgency. David quickly took charge of the situation, his medical training kicking in despite his retirement. "We need to get it warm, and we need to do it now," he said, already removing his water-resistant jacket. Emma pulled a soft wool scarf from her bag, and Mike quickly fashioned a makeshift carrier from their combined resources. "The old Johnson cabin is just half a mile from here," Mike suggested, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his system. "It's stocked with emergency supplies. We can stabilize it there until we can get proper help." The mother monkey remained on the rock, observing in silence, without trying to follow them. The second monkey stayed by its side, maintaining that silent vigil. The rain continued falling, but now it seemed merely a backdrop to something much greater happening there. As they carefully made their way through the slippery terrain, Emma couldn't help but look back several times at the two figures on the rock, their silhouettes growing fainter in the rain. The trust that had been placed in them felt monumental, almost overwhelming. She had spent decades observing wildlife in Yellowstone, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The Johnson cabin emerged from the rain like a beacon of hope. It was a sturdy structure, built in the 1950s and maintained by the local community for emergencies exactly like this. Mike fumbled with the keys, his cold hands shaking as he worked the lock. Inside, the cabin was basic but well-equipped. A generator hummed to life with the flip of a switch, and soon the small space was filled with warm light. David immediately cleared the wooden table in the center of the room, his veterinary instincts taking over. "Emma, there should be some thermal blankets in the emergency kit. Mike, we need warm water, but not hot. We have to do this gradually." His voice carried the authority of someone who had handled countless critical situations, though never quite like this one. As they worked to stabilize the infant, each of them was acutely aware of the extraordinary nature of what had just transpired. The mother's decision to entrust them with her baby challenged everything they thought they knew about animal behavior. The level of trust, the depth of emotion they had witnessed spoke of something far more complex than mere instinct. Emma wrapped the thermal blanket around the tiny form, her movements gentle and precise. "Look at the way it's breathing," she whispered. "It's getting stronger." Indeed, with each passing minute, the infant's breath seemed to become more steady, more determined. Through the cabin's windows, they could see the storm beginning to ease, though the rain continued to fall steadily. Mike used the cabin's emergency radio to contact the nearest wildlife center, carefully explaining the situation. The response was immediate. A team would be dispatched as soon as the weather permitted safe travel. As they waited, David conducted a careful examination of the infant. "It's remarkable," he said, his voice filled with wonder. "Despite everything it's been through, I can't find any serious injury. The cold was the biggest threat, but we got to it in time." He paused, looking at his companions. "But what happens next? This isn't just any rescue. What we witnessed back there, it changes things." The question hung in the air, heavy with implications. They had been drawn into something extraordinary, something that would challenge their understanding of the creatures they shared this wilderness with. As the infant's condition continued to improve under their care, each of them knew that this was only the beginning of a much larger story. Days passed, and the story spread through the small community of West Yellowstone like wildfire. The local wildlife center had become the focal point of unprecedented attention as the infant monkey, against all expectations, was recovering. Dr. Sarah Collins, the center's lead veterinarian, had taken personal charge of the case, fascinated not only by the medical aspects, but by the extraordinary circumstances of the rescue. "In all my years of practice, I've never seen anything quite like this," Sarah explained to Emma, who had been visiting daily since the rescue. They stood watching through the observation window as the infant showed increasingly promising signs of improvement. It's not just the physical recovery that's remarkable. There's something about this little one's will to live that defies explanation. The Wildlife Center had transformed one of its recovery rooms into a specialized care unit, maintaining the perfect temperature and humidity levels for the infant's needs. Volunteers worked in shifts, ensuring round-the-clock care. The dedication of the staff was matched only by the interest of the local community who had rallied together to support the center's efforts. Emma spent hours documenting everything in her journal, determined to capture every detail of this extraordinary event. Her reputation as a wildlife observer had brought researchers from nearby universities, all eager to understand the implications of what had happened during the storm. The mother monkey's behavior had challenged conventional understanding of primate cognition and emotional capacity. "The way she handed over her baby to us," Emma explained to a group of researchers, her voice still filled with wonder at the memory. "It wasn't just desperation. There was a clear decision made there, a level of trust that we didn't think possible." The researchers listened intently, their notepads filling with questions that would fuel years of study. David, despite his retirement, had become a regular fixture at the center, his experience proving invaluable in the infant's care. He worked closely with Sarah, their combined expertise creating the best possible chance for recovery. "The little one is getting stronger every day," he shared with Mike during one of his visits. "But what's truly fascinating is how this experience is changing our understanding of these creatures." The infant's progress was indeed remarkable. From those first frightening moments in the storm, when life had hung by a thread, to now watching it respond to care, take nourishment, and show increasing alertness, it was nothing short of miraculous. The tiny fingers that had once been cold and still now gripped the feeding bottle with surprising strength. Meanwhile, Mike had taken on the responsibility of monitoring the mother monkey and her companion. He made daily trips to the area near Crystal Creek, maintaining a respectful distance while observing their behavior. What he saw both surprised and moved him. The mother hadn't abandoned the area, maintaining a presence nearby, as if somehow knowing that her infant was being cared for. "She's still there," he reported during one of the daily staff meetings at the center. "Both of them are. They've established a pattern of movement around the area where we found them, but they never go too far." His observations added another layer to the already extraordinary story, suggesting a level of awareness that challenged previous assumptions about primate behavior. The local media had picked up the story, though the center carefully managed access to protect both the infant and the mother. Leslie Thompson, a reporter from the West Yellowstone Gazette, worked with the center to share the story in a way that highlighted its broader implications for wildlife conservation and our understanding of animal consciousness. "What we're witnessing here goes beyond a simple rescue story," Leslie wrote in her column. It's making us question the boundaries we've drawn between human and animal awareness, between instinct and conscious decision-making. Her articles helped frame the event in a larger context, drawing attention to the importance of wildlife protection and the complexity of animal behavior. As the days turned into weeks, the infant's recovery continued to progress. Sarah and her team began to discuss the next critical phase: planning for reunification. It would need to be handled with extreme care, taking into account both the physical readiness of the infant and the behavioral patterns of the mother. The team knew they were venturing into uncharted territory, but they were determined to honor the trust that had been placed in them during that stormy afternoon. The morning light filtered through the windows of the Wildlife Center as Dr. Sarah Collins reviewed the latest health assessments. The infant monkey's recovery had exceeded all expectations, and now the most challenging phase of their journey was approaching. The team had been meticulously planning the reunion, knowing that success would require perfect timing and execution. Every detail matters, Sarah explained to the gathered team, which included Emma, David, and Mike. We're not just dealing with a physical reunion. We're handling an emotional reconnection that could redefine what we know about primate behavior. The conference room walls were covered with maps, behavioral charts, and weather forecasts. Nothing could be left to chance. Mike's daily observations had proven invaluable. He spread out his detailed notes on the conference table, pointing to specific patterns he'd documented. The mother and her companion have established a clear routine. They return to the creek area every morning, staying until late afternoon. They've maintained this pattern consistently, even after all these weeks. Emma had been working closely with Dr. James Peterson, a primatologist from the University of Montana, who had arrived to assist with the reunion planning. Together, they had developed a comprehensive understanding of the social dynamics at play. What we witnessed during the storm wasn't just maternal instinct, James explained, his enthusiasm evident in his voice. The level of trust displayed and the continued presence of both adults in the area suggests a complex social awareness we're only beginning to understand. The preparation went beyond just timing and location. The team had created a carefully controlled environment that would allow for a gradual reintroduction. They had constructed a specialized mobile unit that would protect the infant while allowing for visual and auditory contact with the mother. David had been instrumental in designing this aspect of the plan, drawing on his years of experience with wildlife rehabilitation. The key is to give them control of the pace, David emphasized, pointing to the features of the mobile unit. We need to be present but invisible, allowing nature to take its course while ensuring the safety of both mother and infant. His design incorporated one-way viewing panels and climate control systems, all carefully camouflaged to blend with the natural environment. Leslie Thompson from the West Yellowstone Gazette had been granted exclusive access to document the preparation phase, understanding the historical significance of what was about to unfold. Her articles had captured the community's imagination, but more importantly, they had highlighted the deeper implications of this extraordinary event. This isn't just about one successful rescue, Leslie wrote in her latest piece. It's about recognizing the profound complexity of the creatures we share this wilderness with. The mother's choice to trust humans with her infant and her patient. Vigilance since then challenges our fundamental understanding of animal consciousness. As the team worked through the logistics, they were acutely aware of the weight of responsibility they carried. The trust placed in them that stormy afternoon had not diminished. If anything, it had grown stronger with each passing day. The infant's recovery was more than a medical success. It had become a bridge between two worlds, challenging preconceptions and opening new possibilities for understanding. Sarah spent extra time with the infant during these final days of preparation. monitoring its reactions to various stimuli and ensuring it was strong enough for the transition. The little one had developed a strong grip and clear awareness of its surroundings, meeting all the developmental markers they had hoped to see. "Watch how it responds to the recorded sounds," Sarah pointed out to Emma during one of their observation sessions. They had been playing ambient sounds from the creek area, preparing the infant for the environmental transition. Its reactions were encouraging, alert but not stressed, showing a natural curiosity that would be essential for successful reintegration. The weather would play a crucial role in their plans, just as it had in the original rescue. The team monitored the forecasts obsessively, looking for the perfect window of opportunity. They needed clear conditions, mild temperatures, and minimal wind, a stark contrast to the storm that had brought them all together. As the final pieces of the plan fell into place, a sense of anticipation built among the team members. They had witnessed something extraordinary during that storm, and now they were about to participate in completing a circle that none of them had thought possible. The reunion would be more than just a return. It would be a testament to the unexpected bridges that could form between species when compassion and trust overcame natural barriers. The dawn broke over Yellowstone with a gentle warmth that seemed to bless their mission. The morning air was crisp and clear, creating perfect conditions for what lay ahead. At the Wildlife Center, the team gathered early, each person moving with purposeful precision, knowing that this day would mark the culmination of their extraordinary journey. Dr. Sarah Collins performed one final check on the infant, her movements gentle and practiced. The little one had grown stronger with each passing day, its eyes now bright and alert, its movements confident. "Everything looks perfect," she announced to the waiting team. "We couldn't have asked for better conditions or better progress." Emma arrived with her well-worn journal tucked under her arm, ready to document every moment of this historic day. She had barely slept the night before, her mind filled with memories of that stormy afternoon that had brought them all together. The pages of her journal told the story of not just a rescue, but of a profound connection that had formed between species. Mike had been at the creek since before sunrise, confirming the presence of the mother and her companion. His radio crackled with reassuring news. "They're here following their usual pattern. The area is calm and they seem relaxed." His voice carried both excitement and reverence for what they were about to attempt. The specialized mobile unit, David's careful creation, was loaded with practiced efficiency. Every detail had been considered, from the temperature control systems to the special viewing panels that would allow the infant to see its mother while remaining protected. David himself checked every latch and seal, his experienced hands ensuring nothing was left to chance. Dr. James Peterson, the primatologist, reviewed the protocol with the team one final time. "Remember," he emphasized, "we're not just conducting a reunion. We're witnessing something that could reshape our understanding of primate cognition and emotional bonds. Our role is to facilitate while remaining as unobtrusive as possible." Leslie Thompson stood quietly to the side, her camera ready but unobtrusive. The West Yellowstone Gazette had agreed to hold the story until after the reunion, understanding the delicate nature of what was about to unfold. Her presence was a testament to the historical significance of the event, but also to the trust she had built with the team over the weeks. As they prepared to depart, Sarah gathered everyone for a final moment of reflection. "What began in a storm has led us to this day," she said, her voice soft but clear. "We've been part of something extraordinary, something that challenges everything we thought we knew about the boundaries between humans and animals. Whatever happens today, that truth remains." The convoy moved slowly through the park, following the carefully planned route to Crystal Creek. The morning sun painted the landscape in gentle golds and greens, so different from the dark storm clouds that had brought them together. In the mobile unit, the infant remained calm, as if sensing the importance of the moment. Emma rode with Sarah, her journal open on her lap. "Do you remember," she asked quietly, "that sound the mother made when she handed over her baby?" "I've never heard anything so full of trust and hope." Sarah nodded, understanding that some moments transcend scientific explanation. As they approached the creek area, Mike's voice came over the radio again, calm and measured. "Everything remains stable." They're in their usual spot, and the surrounding area is clear. The team had chosen this location carefully, close enough to the original rescue site to be familiar, but with better visibility and more stable ground. The vehicles parked in their designated positions, creating a protective semicircle around the mobile unit. Each team member moved to their assigned station, their movements careful and deliberate. The morning air was filled with a tension that was part anticipation, part reverence for what they were about to witness. Through the viewing panels, they could see the mother and her companion, still maintaining their vigil near the creek. The sunlight caught the spray from the water, creating tiny rainbows, nature's own celebration of this moment. The team waited, watching, as the next chapter of their extraordinary story was about to unfold. The clearing fell into a profound silence as David and Sarah began the delicate process of positioning the mobile unit. Every movement was calculated, every step measured with precision. The morning sun had risen higher now, casting dappled shadows through the canopy of trees, so different from the stormy darkness that had marked their first encounter. The mother, Monkey, remained near the creek, her companion close by, both seemingly aware of the activity, but maintaining a calm demeanor that surprised even Dr. James Peterson. "This is remarkable," he whispered to Emma, who was documenting every detail. In her journal, "Their behavior suggests not just acceptance of our presence, but an almost conscious anticipation." Sarah monitored the infant's vital signs through the unit's sophisticated equipment. The little one remained surprisingly calm, occasionally making soft sounds that seemed to carry across the clearing. Each time it vocalized, the mother's head would turn slightly, her attention clearly caught by the familiar sounds. "It's time," Sarah announced quietly, looking at each team member in turn. They had rehearsed this moment countless times, but the reality held a weight that no practice could have prepared them for. With careful movements, she began the process of opening the unit's specialized panels, creating a clear line of sight between mother and infant while maintaining the protective barrier they had designed. The first visual contact between mother and infant sent a ripple of emotion through the observers. The mother's reaction was subtle but unmistakable, a slight shift in posture, an intensity of focus that spoke volumes. Her companion moved closer, offering the same silent support that had been present during the storm. Emma's pen moved rapidly across the pages of her journal, trying to capture every nuance of the unfolding scene. "The mother's expression," she wrote, "carries the same mixture of hope and intensity we witnessed that day in the storm. There's a recognition there that transcends simple instinct." The infant, seeing its mother for the first time since the rescue, became more animated. Its movements were stronger now, more purposeful, and its vocalizations grew more frequent. Each sound seemed to strengthen the invisible thread connecting mother and child across the clearing. Mike, positioned at the edge of the area with his binoculars, maintained a watchful eye on the surrounding forest. His years of experience told him that this moment was unlike anything he had ever witnessed in the park. The usual sounds of the forest had dimmed, as if nature itself was holding its breath. The next phase was crucial. Following David's carefully designed plan, they began to gradually reduce the barriers between mother and infant. Each step was measured not in minutes or seconds, but in the subtle exchanges of glances and movements between the two primates. "Look at how she's moving," Dr. Peterson observed quietly. "She's not just approaching randomly. There's a clear pattern to her movements, a deliberate care that shows she understands the delicacy of this moment." His academic understanding of primate behavior was being challenged and expanded with each passing second. Leslie Thompson, still maintaining her respectful distance, managed to capture photographs that would later be described as extraordinary, not just for their content, but for the depth of emotion they conveyed. Through her lens, she documented a reunion that would challenge conventional understanding of animal consciousness. The mother's approach was gradual, each step measured and deliberate. Her companion remained slightly behind, maintaining that same supportive presence that had marked their relationship since the storm. The infant's responses grew more animated as the distance decreased, its movements showing a recognition that went beyond mere instinct. Sarah and David exchanged glances, their years of experience telling them that something remarkable was unfolding before them. The careful plans they had made, the protocols they had established, all seemed to fade into the background as nature took its course in ways they couldn't have predicted. As the distance between mother and infant narrowed, the clearing seemed to hold its collective breath. The morning light filtered through the trees, creating a natural spotlight for a reunion that would redefine their understanding of the bonds between creatures who share this earth. The moment of truth was upon them, carrying with it the weight of trust that had been placed in human hands during that stormy afternoon weeks ago. The distance between mother and infant continued to shrink, each moment charged with an intensity that made time itself seem to slow down. Sarah maintained her position near the mobile unit, her trained eyes carefully monitoring every aspect of the interaction. The infant, growing more animated with each passing second, began to make soft calling sounds that echoed across the clearing. Emma's hand trembled slightly as she wrote in her journal, trying to capture the profound nature of what they were witnessing. The infant's calls, she noted, aren't just random vocalizations. They're specific sounds, almost like a language shared only between mother and child. The mother's responses to these calls were immediate and unmistakable, her movements becoming more purposeful with each exchange. David watched with growing amazement as his carefully designed protocols seemed to align perfectly with the natural instincts at play. The mother's approach showed an understanding of the situation that went beyond anything they had anticipated. She moved with a grace that spoke of both caution and determination, each step bringing her closer to the child she had entrusted to human care during that desperate moment in the storm. The companion monkey maintained its vigilant presence, moving in perfect synchronization with the mother, providing what Dr. Peterson would later describe in his research papers as emotional support behavior previously undocumented in wild primates. Its role in this reunion was proving to be as significant as it had been during the initial rescue. As the final distance closed, Sarah began the last phase of their carefully planned reunion. With movements that seemed almost ceremonial in their deliberation, she initiated the final opening of the protective barriers. The morning air, warm and gentle, carried the scents of the forest around them, so different from the rain-soaked atmosphere of their first encounter. The infant's reaction to its mother's proximity was immediate and profound. Its movements became more energetic, more focused, reaching out with tiny hands toward the familiar presence it had been separated from for so long. The sound it made then was unlike anything they had heard during the weeks of recovery, a call that seemed to bridge the gap between past and present. The mother's response to this call would later be described by Leslie in her article as a moment that challenged everything we thought we knew about animal consciousness. She moved forward with unwavering purpose, her eyes fixed on her child, and made a sound that the team recognized from that stormy day. But this time, instead of carrying grief and desperation, it rang with hope and recognition. Mike, still maintaining his watchful position, found himself lowering his binoculars, drawn into the raw emotion of the moment. His years in Yellowstone had shown him countless natural wonders, but nothing had prepared him for the depth of connection he was witnessing. The forest around them remained unusually quiet, as if nature itself was acknowledging the significance of this reunion. The final moment of reconnection happened with a gentleness that brought tears to Emma's eyes. The mother reached out, her movements careful and deliberate, and touched her infant for the first time since that desperate afternoon. The little one responded immediately, grasping its mother's fur with the strength they had watched develop during its recovery. Dr. Peterson, his academic objectivity momentarily forgotten, whispered, "This isn't just instinct we're seeing. This is recognition, memory, and emotional connection operating at a level we barely understand." His words captured what everyone present was feeling. They were witnessing something that transcended traditional scientific understanding. The companion monkey moved closer, completing the reunion in a way that seemed choreographed by nature itself. Its presence added another layer to the already extraordinary scene, demonstrating a complexity of social bonds that would become the subject of numerous research papers and discussions in the scientific community. Sarah watched as the infant, now secure in its mother's embrace, displayed all the signs of health and vitality they had worked so hard to restore. The weeks of careful monitoring, the countless hours of specialized care, the meticulous planning, all of it had led to this moment of perfect completion. The trust that had been placed in them during the storm had been honored, and nature's circle was closing in the most beautiful way possible. The first few moments after the reunion seemed to exist in a world of their own, where time moved differently and every breath carried the weight of miracle. The mother cradled her infant with the same careful determination she had shown during the storm, but now her movements were filled with joy rather than desperation. The little one nestled against her, making soft sounds of contentment that spoke of recognition and trust. Dr. Sarah Collins watched the interaction with professional attention, noting every detail of their behavior. "The infant's responses are exactly what we hope to see," she whispered to David, who stood nearby with decades of veterinary experience shining in his eyes. Every movement, every sound indicates a perfect recognition and bonding. Emma's journal pages filled rapidly as she documented the unfolding scene. The mother's companion had moved closer, creating a protective circle around the reunited pair. This behavior particularly fascinated Dr. Peterson, who saw in it evidence of social structures more complex than previously documented. "The level of cooperation and emotional support we're witnessing here," he noted quietly, "challenges our entire understanding of primate social dynamics." As the morning progressed, the team maintained their positions, careful not to disturb the delicate balance of the reunion. Leslie Thompson's camera captured frame after frame of interactions that would soon captivate the world. Through her lens, she documented moments of tenderness that transcended species boundaries, the gentle grooming, the soft exchanges of sound, the protective presence of the companion. Mike's radio crackled softly as he reported to the park authorities, his voice carrying a mix of professional detachment and wonder. "The reunion is proceeding perfectly," he reported. "All behaviors are natural and positive." But what they were witnessing went beyond any standard wildlife report could capture. The bond between mother and infant displayed a depth of emotion that defied conventional scientific categorization. The infant, growing more confident, with each passing moment, began to show signs of the strength and vitality that weeks of careful rehabilitation had restored. Its movements were sure and steady, its responses to its mother's attentions immediate and appropriate. Sarah watched, with professional pride, seeing in every movement the success of their careful treatment protocols. The clearing had become a sacred space where the boundaries between human understanding and animal consciousness seemed to blur and reshape themselves. Emma found herself recording not just the physical events, but the profound shift in perspective that each observer seemed to be experiencing. "We came here as scientists and caregivers," she wrote, "but we're leaving with a fundamentally altered understanding of the creatures we share this world with." David's carefully designed reunion protocols had worked perfectly, but even he admitted that what they were witnessing went beyond any planned procedure. The natural grace with which mother and infant reconnected, the intuitive understanding they displayed, spoke of bonds deeper than any scientific manual could describe. The companion monkey's role continued to fascinate the observers. Its presence provided a constant source of support and security, demonstrating a social complexity that Dr. Peterson knew would reshape scientific understanding of primate relationships. "This isn't just family bonding," he explained to Emma as she took notes. "This is community care at a level we've rarely documented in wild populations." As the morning wore on, the mother began to move with more confidence, transitioning from the initial reunion to more natural behaviors. She checked her infant thoroughly, her actions showing both the instinctive care of a mother and an almost human-like awareness of her child's recent medical journey. Each gentle touch seemed to confirm what the rehabilitation team had worked so hard to achieve. The infant was truly ready for this return. The team's attention never wavered, but their role had shifted from active participants to privileged observers. They watched as natural behaviors emerged and strengthened, each moment reinforcing the success of their intervention. The trust that had been placed in them during that desperate storm had been fully justified, leading to this moment of perfect completion. Leslie, still documenting every moment, realized she was capturing something far more significant than a simple wildlife rehabilitation success story. Her photographs would tell a tale of consciousness, emotion, and connections that transcended simple instinct. Each frame held evidence of a depth of feeling and awareness that would challenge preconceptions about the divide between human and animal experience. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the clearing as the team continued their careful observation of the reunited family. The transformation they witnessed was profound, from the desperate scene in the storm to this moment of natural harmony. The mother moved with increasing confidence through the familiar territory, her infant secure against her, while her companion maintained its protective presence. Sarah and David exchanged knowing looks as they watched the infant demonstrate all the signs of successful rehabilitation. Every movement, every interaction confirmed that their weeks of careful treatment had provided the perfect foundation for this reunion. The little one's strength was evident in the way it gripped its mother's fur, its alertness clear in how it responded to the sounds and movements around it. Emma's journal had become a testament to something far more significant than a simple wildlife intervention. Her careful observations documented a story that challenged fundamental assumptions about animal consciousness and emotional capacity. "What we witnessed here," she wrote, her pen moving swiftly across the page, "isn't just about survival or instinct. It's about trust, recognition, and bonds that transcend our traditional understanding." Dr. Peterson had begun preliminary notes for what he knew would become a groundbreaking research paper. The behaviors they had observed, from the mother's initial trust in human intervention to the companion's supportive role throughout the reunion, suggested levels of social complexity that would reshape scientific understanding of primate relationships. "Look at how they move together," he pointed out to Leslie, who continued to document the scene with her camera. "There's a synchronicity there, a mutual awareness that goes beyond what we typically observe in wild populations." The mother and her companion had developed a coordinated approach to protecting and nurturing the infant, taking turns in watching their surroundings while maintaining constant physical contact. Mike maintained his position at the perimeter, but his attention was fixed on the extraordinary scene before him. In all his years as a wildlife observer, he had never witnessed anything that so completely challenged his understanding of the creatures he worked to protect. The level of awareness, the depth of emotional connection he saw in these animals, forced him to reconsider everything he thought he knew about wildlife behavior. The infant's vocalizations had evolved throughout the day, becoming stronger and more varied. Sarah noted how each sound seemed to carry specific meaning, eliciting precise responses from both the mother and her companion. This complex communication suggested a depth of social interaction that went far beyond simple, instinctive responses. Leslie found herself capturing moments that she knew would resonate far beyond the scientific community. Through her lens, she documented expressions of tenderness, moments of joy, and interactions that spoke of emotional bonds as complex as any human relationship. Each photograph told part of a story that would challenge people's perceptions of the divide between human and animal consciousness. As the afternoon progressed, the team observed how the mother gradually began to expand her movement range, always maintaining careful attention to her infant's responses. The little one showed increasing confidence, occasionally reaching out to explore its surroundings while maintaining secure contact with its mother. These behaviors confirmed everything they had hoped to see. Not just physical recovery, but complete emotional reintegration. David watched with particular satisfaction as all his carefully designed protocols proved successful. Yet he understood that what they had witnessed went far beyond any planned procedure. The natural grace with which this family unit had reformed, the intuitive understanding they displayed, spoke of bonds deeper than any scientific manual could describe. Emma continued her documentation, knowing that the events of this day would resonate far beyond their small corner of Yellowstone. The story they had witnessed was not just about a successful wildlife intervention. It was about recognition, trust, and the profound connections that exist in the natural world, waiting to be understood by those willing to look deeper. The clearing had become more than just a location in Yellowstone National Park. It had transformed into a place of revelation, where the boundaries between human understanding and animal consciousness had shifted and reformed. Each person present knew they had been part of something extraordinary, something that would challenge and expand humanity's understanding of the complex emotional lives of the creatures we share this world with. As the day began to wind down, the clearing took on an almost ethereal quality in the late afternoon light. The mother and infant, now fully reunited, had settled into a natural rhythm that spoke of their deep connection. The companion remained, close by, its presence a constant reminder of the complex social bonds they had witnessed throughout this extraordinary journey. Sarah began the process of gathering her final observations, her medical notes telling only part of the story. The infant's physical recovery had been remarkable, but what they had witnessed today went far beyond mere biological success. Every interaction, every gentle touch and soft vocalization demonstrated a depth of emotional healing that medicine alone could never achieve. "It's amazing," she confided to Emma, who was still diligently recording every detail in her journal. "In medical school, they teach us about physical healing, about biological processes and recovery protocols. But what we've seen here today, this kind of emotional reconnection, there's no textbook that can fully capture this." Emma nodded, understanding completely. Her journal had become more than just a scientific record. It had transformed into a testament to the profound capabilities of these remarkable creatures. "We came here as observers," she wrote, "but we're leaving as students of a deeper wisdom that nature has shown us." Dr. Peterson had spent the afternoon documenting behavioral patterns that challenged conventional scientific understanding. The way the mother and her companion coordinated their movements, their sophisticated system of communication, and their obvious emotional awareness all pointed to levels of consciousness that would force a re-evaluation of traditional primatology. What we've witnessed here, he explained to Leslie as she captured the final photographs of the day, isn't just a successful rehabilitation. It's evidence of emotional and social complexity that we've barely begun to understand. The trust shown during the storm, the patience during recovery, and now this beautiful reunion, it all speaks to capabilities we're only starting to recognize. Mike had maintained his vigilant watch throughout the day, but his role had shifted from protector to privileged witness. The family unit before them had established their own security, their own patterns of movement and protection that spoke of natural wisdom regained. His reports to park headquarters had become increasingly filled with wonder at the sophisticated behaviors he observed. David stood slightly apart from the others, his years of veterinary experience giving him a unique perspective on what they had accomplished. The protocols he had designed, the careful plans they had made, all had served their purpose. But the success they witnessed went beyond any human intervention. Nature had taken their assistance and transformed it into something far more profound. Leslie's camera had captured moments that would soon captivate audiences worldwide, but she knew that no photograph could fully convey the emotional depth of what they had witnessed. Each image would tell part of a story that challenged fundamental assumptions about the divide between human and animal consciousness, between instinct and emotion. The infant, now secure in its natural family unit, displayed all the strength and vitality they had worked so hard to restore. But more than that, it showed a joy and emotional wholeness that spoke of bonds deeper than mere survival. Each interaction with its mother and the companion demonstrated a complexity of relationship that defied simple scientific categorization. As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, casting long shadows through the trees, the team prepared for their final observations. The mother had established a comfortable resting spot, the infant secured against her, while the companion maintained its protective vigil. Their movements were so coordinated, so natural, that it seemed impossible to imagine they had ever been separated. Emma made her final notes of the day, her words trying to capture the profound nature of what they had witnessed. "Today," she wrote, "we've seen more than just a successful reunion. We've been privileged to witness the deep wisdom of nature, the profound bonds that exist in the animal world, and the remarkable capacity for trust and healing that transcends species boundaries." The clearing had become more than just a location. In Yellowstone, it had transformed into a place of learning, where human understanding had been expanded by the wisdom of the natural world. Each person present knew they had been part of something extraordinary, something that would continue to resonate and teach long after this day had ended. The setting sun painted the sky in brilliant hues of orange and purple, casting a magical glow over the clearing that had become sacred ground for all who had witnessed the day's events. The mother, infant, and companion had settled into a natural rhythm that seemed to erase the weeks of separation, their movements and interactions flowing with an ease that spoke of deep, unbroken bonds. Dr. Sarah Collins began the final phase of their observation protocol, though she knew that what they had witnessed today had gone far beyond any scientific procedure. "In all my years of wildlife medicine," she whispered to David, "I've never seen anything that so completely challenges our understanding of animal consciousness." Emma's journal, now filled with hours of detailed observations, had become a testament to something far more profound than a simple wildlife rehabilitation story. "The trust we witnessed during that storm," she wrote, her pen moving steadily across the page, "wasn't a desperate act of survival. It was a conscious choice that spoke of an understanding we're only beginning to grasp." Dr. Peterson had spent The last hour organizing his preliminary notes, already envisioning the series of papers that would emerge from this experience. The behaviors they had documented, from the initial act of trust during the storm to the sophisticated social interactions during the reunion, would force a fundamental reassessment of primate cognitive and emotional capabilities. Leslie Thompson's camera had captured the day's events in extraordinary detail, but she knew that the true story lay beyond what any lens could record. The depth of emotion, the complexity of relationships, and the profound trust displayed would challenge viewers to reconsider their assumptions about the divide between human and animal consciousness. Mike maintained his position at the perimeter, but his attention was fixed on the family group before him. In all his years of wildlife observation, he had never witnessed anything that so completely demonstrated the sophisticated emotional lives of the creatures under his protection. Each interaction he observed added another layer to his understanding of their complex social structures. The infant, now fully reintegrated with its natural family, displayed a confidence and security that validated every hour of their careful rehabilitation efforts. Its movements were strong and sure, its vocalizations clear and purposeful, demonstrating not just physical recovery, but complete emotional healing. "Look at how they move together," David observed quietly. "It's like watching a dance, where every step has been choreographed by nature itself." The mother and companion had developed a coordinated system of care and protection that spoke of deep social bonds and sophisticated communication. As the day's light began to fade, the team knew they were witnessing the final moments of something extraordinary. The mother had chosen a secure resting spot. The infant nestled safely against her, while the companion maintained its protective presence. Their natural behaviors had fully reasserted themselves, showing no trace of the trauma that had brought them all together. Emma made her final notes of the day, trying to capture the profound significance of what they had witnessed. "Today," she wrote, "we've been privileged to see beyond the traditional boundaries of scientific understanding. We've witnessed not just the physical reunion of a family, but the demonstration of emotional and social capabilities that challenge our fundamental assumptions about consciousness in the natural world." Dr. Peterson gathered his research materials, knowing that the observations made today would contribute to a broader understanding of primate behavior and cognition. "What we've seen here," he explained to the team, "isn't just about this one family. It's about recognizing the sophisticated emotional lives that exist in the natural world, waiting to be understood." As darkness began to settle over the clearing, the team prepared for their final departure. The family group had established their natural patterns, showing every sign of successful reintegration. The trust that had been placed in human hands during that desperate storm had been fully honored, leading to a reunion that would reshape understanding of the bonds between all living creatures. The story of that remarkable reunion in Yellowstone spread through the scientific community and beyond, touching hearts and minds in ways that transcended traditional boundaries between human and animal understanding. In the weeks that followed, Emma's journal entries, Dr. Peterson's research, and Leslie's photographs began to paint a picture of something far more profound than a simple wildlife rescue. Sarah continued her regular monitoring visits to the area, though now from a respectful distance. The family group had fully reintegrated into their natural patterns, showing every sign of thriving in their wilderness home. The infant, once so fragile in that stormy moment, now moved with strength and confidence, secure in the constant presence of its mother and devoted companion. "The transformation is remarkable," Sarah noted in her final medical report. "But what's truly extraordinary isn't just the physical recovery. It's the deeper understanding we've gained about the emotional and social capabilities of these remarkable creatures." Her observations would go on to influence new approaches to wildlife rehabilitation, emphasizing the importance of recognizing and supporting natural social bonds. David's innovative protocols for the reunion had proven successful beyond anyone's expectations, but he was the first to acknowledge that their achievement went far beyond technical expertise. What we witnessed, he explained to colleagues at a wildlife medicine conference, was a demonstration of trust, emotional intelligence, and social complexity that challenges everything we thought we knew about animal consciousness. Leslie's photographs, when finally published, captured the world's imagination. Each image told part of a story that began in desperate circumstances during a storm and culminated in a reunion that demonstrated the profound bonds possible between all living creatures. Her work would go on to win numerous awards, not just for technical excellence, but for capturing moments that changed how people viewed the emotional lives of animals. Dr. Peterson's research papers, based on the behaviors documented during this extraordinary event, sparked a revolution in the field of primatology. The sophisticated social interactions they had witnessed, from the initial act of trust during the storm to the complex supportive behaviors during reunion, forced a fundamental reassessment of primate cognitive and emotional capabilities. Mike continued his work in Yellowstone with a deepened appreciation for the creatures under his protection. The events he had witnessed changed not just how he viewed his role as a wildlife observer, but how he understood the delicate balance between human intervention and natural wisdom. His reports became valuable resources for training new generations of park rangers, teaching them to look beyond surface behaviors to the complex emotional lives of the animals they protected. Emma's journal, filled with detailed observations and heartfelt reflections, became the foundation for a series of educational programs that would reach schools and universities across the country. Her careful documentation of the events, from that first desperate moment in the storm to the joyful reunion, helped others understand the sophisticated emotional lives that exist in the natural world. The clearing near Crystal Creek took on an almost legendary status among park staff and regular visitors. Though the family group had long since resumed their natural patterns of movement through their territory, the site remained a powerful reminder of the extraordinary events that had unfolded there. It stood as testament to the moments when human compassion and animal trust had combined to create something miraculous. As time passed, the story became more than just a remarkable wildlife incident. It became a symbol of the profound connections possible between all living creatures. The trust placed in human hands during that desperate storm had been honored, leading to a reunion that demonstrated the deep wisdom present in the natural world. The legacy of those events continues to resonate, challenging our understanding of consciousness, emotion, and the bonds that connect all living beings. It stands as a reminder that sometimes the greatest lessons come not from what we can teach, but from what we are willing to learn when nature opens our eyes to deeper truths. Dear listeners, we hope that this extraordinary tale of trust, hope, and reunion has touched your hearts as deeply as it touched the lives of those who witnessed it. The story of the mother monkey and her infant reminds us that the natural world holds wisdom and emotional depths we are only beginning to understand. To continue exploring these remarkable stories of wildlife and human connection, please subscribe to our channel and click the like button. Your engagement helps us share more stories that challenge our understanding and open our hearts to the extraordinary bonds that exist in nature. Join our community in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this remarkable journey of trust and reunion. Stay tuned for more unique stories that reveal the profound connections between all living beings on this amazing planet we share.